Well, you have a section in here that women should not act like men in sex and dating. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? That was the topic I immediately just jumped to in the book title.
Yeah. So, and this, if your audience is curious to listen to it, the audiobook is read by me, and there's actually an excerpt of it available. If you go to Amazon, or Simon & Schuster has it on SoundCloud, and you can listen to the first 5 minutes of that chapter. So this is a myth that women should behave like men in sex and dating. I think it's doing a real disservice to young women, also young men, because they're being told that there are no differences between the sexes. And so essentially there should be no differences in the way that they approach courtship, dating, their sexual relationships. And if a woman goes into it with that expectation, I mean, I have so many young women who would reach out to me saying they're really confused because they're being told particular messages either by the media or just they're being told, if you are a strong and empowered woman, that you believe that you are no different from men in any way, including in sex. And so you should pursue sex the way that men do, or you should enjoy casual sex as much as men. And if you don't, there's something wrong with you. And so I get these young women who are telling me that they are really confused, they're really unhappy. So I wrote that chapter for them. And what I find really interesting is that I talk about how evolutionary psychology should not be seen as sexist. Evolutionary psychology is still very much a part of who we are. Yes, birth control exists, but it can't override the millions and millions of years preceding it. And to pretend that it doesn't exist does us a disservice. So a lot of people will say that evolutionary psychology is degrading to women. It says that women should have stereotypical gender roles, or that we should be submissive, things like that. And I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying if you understand the scientific research, it's going to help you in your personal life. And I mean, these are things I've learned that have helped me along the way. So I wrote that chapter to say, yes, women, don't feel bad if you don't like casual sex as much as your male friends or your boyfriends, because we on average are not the same. And that's not to say that there are not some women who do enjoy casual sex, or that there aren't some men who don't. But on average, these are the trends we see. I also am very clear to say I don't think evolutionary psychology should be used to justify bad behavior in your partners, or to justify cheating or leering at people who are not your significant other, anything like that. But that whole conversation is taken off the table now, and people just simply say, and in a lot of cases, it's people who know nothing about evolution or evolutionary psychology. They will just say that's misogynistic. That's really outdated to think like that. And if you deny it, you're just going to, I think, learn the hard way as to why these things are actually true.
And from an evolutionary perspective, why is it that men are perhaps having more inclined to have casual sex versus females?
Because for women, the act of sex is a greater investment, because there's the chance for pregnancy, and with pregnancy comes caring for that child, making sure that child survives. Whereas for men, I mean, obviously today, men are very much invested in the parental role, but from a historical perspective, for men, it's more about just spreading your seed. So men are wired in a way to facilitate that, whereas for women, they're wired to be more attached to their partner.
Right. And you're saying females look at that, ignore the evolutionary facts, and they look at that as more of a way to find equality with men by having more casual sex. Or, I mean, some women, I imagine they just want to have more casual sex. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, but in many cases, if a woman is engaging in casual sex with a man, it's because she's hoping for a relationship. And research has actually shown this. Whereas for men, if they are engaging in casual sex, for the most part, they just really want sex, and that's it. That's the only goal. And the Globe and Mail, I'm a monthly columnist for them. They're Canada's national newspaper. They ran an excerpt from that chapter, and it went to number 1 on their website within an hour, which totally blew me away. And I got so much feedback from young women saying, I see this in my friends, and they're going out and they're sleeping around, and they're almost forcing themselves to do that because they think that's what they're supposed to do, but they are so unhappy, and now I understand why. So, it's something like that, where for young women, you don't have to be anything to be empowered. You just be who you are. That's ultimately my message. I mean, for anybody, I don't think we have to live up to anyone's expectations. And so that explains, the non-binary aspect, explains the casual sex and the push for young women to be like men in order to be considered equal. I have a real problem with that, because that to me is what's sexist. I don't think it's sexist to say that men and women are on average different in some ways.